Hello, I'm April Rooks with April Rooks Realty. I'm a realtor with Remax Advanced in Gainesville, Georgia. I'm partnering with Kimbrough Law to bring you virtual seminars and to provide you and your family with valuable information to be a trusted resource for you in making the best decisions that you can make for your loved ones.
Hi, my name is Bailey Fields, and I'm an attorney at Kimbrough Law. At Kimbrough Law, we do things like estate planning and elder law, which means that we do Medicaid planning, VA planning, asset protection, and your basic and complicated estate planning. So today I wanted to talk a little bit about the basic documents that everybody needs and why they need them, as well as a little bit about the VA pension program. All right. So the first thing I want to talk about is the three basic documents that everybody needs no matter what. So everyone should be sure to have a will, a power of attorney, and a healthcare directive. So a lot of my clients don't really think that they need wills because they know that they want everything to go to their spouse when something happens to them. Unfortunately, in Georgia, that just doesn't happen. Let's say that you pass away and you have a spouse and 3 children. Or in this example, there's 4 children. If you didn't have a will in place, then that means that your spouse would only get 1/3 of the property in your name. Your children would have to split the remaining 2/3. Of course, the children could say, "Oh no, mom, dad, you have it, you can have it," but that doesn't always happen, and they don't have to do it. So what that means is that your spouse could end up with a lot less than the two of you planned on needing in retirement if something happens to you and you didn't have it in a will. In addition to that, there's a lot of administrative hoops you have to jump through. So for example, you have to petition the probate court, which you would have to do if you had a will anyway. But if you don't have a will, then you have to advertise all your potential creditors, debtors. You may have to go to an insurance company and purchase a bond, so an added expense for your estate. And most importantly here, you have to create an inventory. And what that means is that your executor would basically have to submit to the court a list of everything that you have, where every penny is and how much. And that can become public record. So then everybody knows your business. And in addition to the administrative steps, there can also be some pretty bad consequences for your family. So when I'm talking about this, it's especially prevalent in blended families. So if you're on your second or third marriage and maybe each of you has children from a previous marriage, it's very, very easy to unintentionally disinherit your own children. So these problems that I'm talking about now are present not only if you don't have a will, but also if you have an incorrectly drafted will or a will that maybe the person who did it for you didn't think through all the potential what ifs. So if you're a blended family, let's say you leave everything to your spouse and your plan is my spouse would, of course he or she would include my children, but there's nothing there to require that. So if something happens to you, everything goes to your spouse, and then your spouse leaves everything to his or her children, well, then your children are left with nothing. There could also be pretty bad consequences for any beneficiaries who are on a government program like SSI or Medicaid or disability. So normally, any inheritance would knock those people off of those programs, and they could lose some valuable medical assistance. But if you have what's called special needs provisions in your will, they can actually keep both their inheritance and their assistance. So these are just a couple of things that are really important to look for when drafting a will. In addition to a will, everybody needs a power of attorney. This can almost be more important than a will in a sense, because this helps you while you're living. So a power of attorney is basically a document that allows you to name someone or someones to make decisions for you if you cannot make them for yourself. So this can include anything up to healthcare decisions. So things like paying your bills or really anything you can sign your name to, your power of attorney could do for you. So really important, but it's also a huge pain if you don't do this. It's a simple document, but if you don't do it and something happens to you and your family has to handle your business, they have to petition the probate court for a guardianship or conservatorship. So this is way more expensive and way more cumbersome. So basically your family would get an attorney, you would get an attorney, or one would be appointed to you at that point. And they would sit there in front of a judge and argue that you cannot make your own decisions, and this is why. So not only is it could be expensive, but it can be really stressful on the family relationship. And then once it's awarded, that whoever gets guardianship or conservatorship has to account for every single thing that they do. They have to ask the judge to do this, to sell that. They have to each year file an inventory and make sure the numbers add up and they account for every penny. But the most important thing here could be that you don't get to choose who files for guardianship or conservatorship. It could be that child that you don't really trust to do things like this, or it could be, that sister that you wouldn't want in charge of your life. So bottom line is, power of attorney is a lot easier, it's a lot safer, it's a lot cheaper. And I did want to mention that in 2017, the law significantly changed when it comes to powers of attorney. So if you have one created before then, you may want to relook at the situation. Basically, if you have a pre-2017 power of attorney and you try and use it somewhere, they do not have to accept it. So this became a huge problem with people, who have dementia or had a stroke, and they can no longer sign new ones because their family would take this to the bank so that they could pay their bills and that kind of thing, and the bank would be like, "I'm sorry, but you need to sign our power of attorney." But they were no longer able to do so, so they were kind of stuck out in limbo. But now, post-2017, as long as we include certain provisions in the power of attorney, places have to accept them. So that's a really important addition. Finally, everyone needs to make sure that they have an advance directive for healthcare. So you've probably been asked about this every single time you've been to the doctor or the hospital, or anything medically related. So this document basically takes the place of what was formerly known as the Georgia Healthcare Power of Attorney and Living Will. So what that means is this document allows you to name someone to make medical decisions for you if you can't make them for yourself. That is the healthcare power of attorney part here. The living will part allows you to go ahead and make certain decisions and provide some guidance for the person that you named as your healthcare power of attorney. So things like, do you want certain life prolonging measures, breathing tube, ventilator, feeding tube? Do you want to be buried or cremated? Do you want an autopsy? All kinds of things like that. Your decisions can be indicated in here. The most important part of this is your people plan. You can't cover every single situation with a question in here. So that person that you name is ultimately entrusted with those decisions and to carry out your wishes. All right, so I want to kind of switch gears a little bit here and talk about the VA pension. So not a lot of people know that this is available. What it is a monthly payment that is available to certain veterans and their surviving spouses if that veteran served during a wartime period. Here you will see the wartime periods. The veteran only had to serve 24 hours within those specific dates, and that veteran never had to leave the U.S. That didn't mean that they actually had to go to war. There is a little exception during the Vietnam period from 1960 to 1964, but other than that, you can still be eligible for this pension despite not leaving the U.S. So this pension is tax-free and can be used for anything. So it doesn't have to be used to pay medical expenses, although a lot of people do use this to pay those expenses. Things like assisted living or memory care or getting someone in the home, but it doesn't need to be used for that. It can be used for Christmas shopping or going out to eat. It doesn't really matter. For a married veteran, this is, right now the rate is $22.66 per month. And again, that is tax-free, and it goes up each year. And it's also available to surviving spouses. So maybe the veteran has passed on, but there's still someone there who may need help. And so that rate is $12.70. It's actually $12.28 per month. That's a typo there. So besides wartime period, how do you get this pension? How do you qualify? Well, the first thing that they will look at is your age and health status. So if you're over 65, then we have to show that that person needs help with at least 2 activities of daily living. But the VA is very, very liberal when it comes to these requirements. So for example, they count having grab bars or a shower stool as assistance with bathing. So even though you don't need someone in the shower scrubbing your back, you have those grab bars there for extra protection, and that's enough for them. Or if you use a cane or a walker, that's another one. Or any type of incontinence whatsoever, that's another one too. So usually, as long as the person is over 65, I don't have too hard of a time qualifying them based on their health status. There is also income and asset requirements. Income, again, I'm not too worried about. There's all kinds of tricks that we can use to make sure that you still qualify despite what your income is. Asset-wise, there is an asset requirement of, it's roughly $129,000 this year to have less than that, and it does not include your home. So if you are over that, then there could be some planning techniques we could use. If you're way over that, then worst case scenario, we would put into place a plan now, and in 3 years you could qualify for this VA pension. Bottom line, no matter what your situation is, if you have that wartime service, this is worth a conversation. It could provide a lot of tax-free money to help afford something like an assisted living or in-home care. And it doesn't matter where you live, you can be eligible for this pension. So that's another common misconception. I have a lot of people who are still living at home. They're fine. They don't need help right now. But they want to go ahead and get this money to start squirreling away so that when they do need help, it's there and available for them. And they've kind of already built up a little safety net. So that is everything that I wanted to kind of go through today. If you have any questions or want to talk about anything further, feel free to reach out to me at Kimbrough Law.
Hi, April Rooks with RE/MAX Advanced here. Excited to share with you today about how I help seniors and their families during times of senior transitions. It's a big job. It's a big challenge at times. And it's important to have someone that has the care and the expertise at helping during those times of transitions. Working in the senior care industry for over 7 years, even working in the marketing aspect of that, but also helping families during those times of looking for the home care needs, looking for their senior living community needs, and looking for other needs that they personally needed or maybe for a loved one or a family member. And to have that expertise and that knowledge of the industry really makes a difference. And I'm so glad that I can help families in this regards because I've been there myself. I've had family members such as my grandfather who had dementia, particularly Alzheimer's, and I helped with his caregiving. And so I've been there myself, and I understand what families are going through. There's always family dynamics involved. And there's a lot of memories and just a lot of emotions that are going on with maybe within you or within your family member. And of course that's understandable, but I've been there and I'm able to help other families in working through those things and being able to put a plan in place for you or for a loved one. So there are a few things that we look at during times of senior transitions. And the first thing that I do is to sit down with the family or with you, and we're going to talk about what it is that you need. What are your needs and what are your plans and what are your goals? What do you want, in your future? And where are you headed? It's important for me to know, are you moving to a senior living community? Are you moving in with a family member? What does that look like? And then I want to look at your needs. What are your health needs, your living needs, and what I can, be of a resource to you in those needs. And that helps me also in putting a plan together that's going to help educate you, help you make the best decisions for you, along with us working together in getting your house ready to sell, right? So then the next thing that we're going to look at is, once we know where you're headed, is we're going to look at downsizing. Of course, downsizing is a big, big part of your move and your transition. So we look at, are you moving into a 700 square foot apartment in a senior living community, for example, or are you moving into a basement of a loved one that's maybe, anywhere from 1,000 to 1,500 square feet. So the space of where you're moving to is important so that we can know what that downsizing is going to look like. And then we want to help connect you with senior professionals, such as professional downsizers, professional organizers as well, and any other resources that you might need. If you want to donate some items to a thrift store, then we can help connect you to thrift stores that might come and pick up furniture for you. So all of those parts are important. And the other part that's important to talk about is the emotional aspect. And one of the things that oftentimes we're in crisis mode when we need to move, maybe there's been a health concern or a major health event for you or for your mom or dad, and you're in crisis mode. And so you may be kind of scurrying to get some pieces together, right? So what's important is to also remember that emotional aspect. It's emotional for everyone. And it is a challenge and it's stress anytime that we have a change in life. So being able to recognize that, being able to take a deep breath, to just slow down and have someone help you to walk through that is so valuable. And so what we look at is, are there pieces of furniture, for example, that have a lot of sentimental value to you or to your loved one that's important for you to move? There might be a particular chair or some other type of furniture that has some memories attached to that, right? And so from moving from a space with all of these things and downsizing and having to leave things behind is hard. And then the bigger piece of that puzzle is that many times you might have spent 20, 30, 50 years in a home, and to be able to leave that home is certainly challenging. So we want to be able to help you to take the things that are meaningful to you and to make your new home, your new space comfortable and familiar. So the next part of that is the relocation. We work with senior movers that help with particularly seniors and all of their moving needs. And one of the things that the senior movers are wonderful at doing is they can go into the home and perhaps take a picture that's of one of the living room walls. And they will take those photos, any furniture pieces, lamps, whatever that is, and they can recreate that within their new space. And that's such a beautiful thing because it helps keep that familiarity that is needed. And in particular, especially with loved ones that may be struggling with some memory or cognitive issues, helping to keep some things as familiar as possible is very helpful in those instances. So relocation is, the next step of what we do in preparing for this senior transition. The next thing that we look at is the need for a potential estate sale or an online auction. Now, if you're not familiar with an estate sale, typically you will have an estate sale company that will come in, look at all of the different furniture pieces, and you'll have an estate sale on 1 or 2 weekends to be able to sell the furniture. But now there are some wonderful new online options that will help you to make the transition with moving furniture, selling furniture a lot easier, and also just more efficient. So I'm certainly helpful in connecting families with those services as well. And then what's very important to me, again, is helping families with their needs for different senior care resources, whether that's a senior living community, if it's a home health company, whatever that looks like. Being able to put those things as a part of your plan and those resources to help you is so important to me, because I have worked together with a team and a partnership of different senior care providers for many, many years. And I love helping families to be connected with quality senior care providers. And then, of course, the last thing that we look at is, what do we need to do to prepare your home or your loved one's home for going on the market? Now I work together, of course, with Kimbrough Law. And what we, of course, want to make sure is that if there is a need for power of attorney, or there, with family members, that all of those legal pieces are put into place. But then I can work with either the senior, it might be you, or it could be for your mom or dad, for example. Then we're going to sit together and we're going to look at the home. We're going to do, I do a market evaluation of the home, a comparative market analysis, and then also be able to look at the actual condition of the home from the exterior and the interior to help put that market evaluation together. And then what we also want to do is look at having a pre-inspection completed on the home. So you might be familiar with a home inspection. So once you have a home under contract, you hire a home inspector to come in to look at the condition of the outside of the home and the interior of the home to see if there are any major defects and what mild defects might be there that might need repairing, especially any major structural issues or major components that would affect the sale of that home. So it's a great idea to have that pre-inspection done, and especially because if maybe you or your loved one has not been in good health or hasn't had the ability for many reasons to be able to keep up with the upkeep or maintenance of that home, then there likely may be things that would need to be addressed prior to putting that on the market to do two things. One is to ensure that you can get the most value out of that current market for your home. And then secondly, that you would also be able to sell that home without any issues, right? So you don't have any surprises that are going to come up during that due diligence period from the buyer, more than likely. So that's definitely another benefit that you would have from that pre-inspection. So those are all things that we do as a part of a step-by-step plan in getting ready for a senior transition. It's meaningful to me to help seniors and to help their families during these times. Maya Angelou said that people will forget what you say, people will forget what you do, but they will never forget how you made them feel. And so my goal in working with every client is that they feel the care and the compassion and the patience that I have in working with them and with their loved ones during this time, and helping to ease any stress and anxiety. And sometimes that just means a listening ear, but it also means the expertise, the follow through and follow up to help make it a smooth transition.